Hello and welcome to Knit.Purl.Repeat. My name is Jess and I'm coming to you from Southwest Florida, where I live with my husband and our 2 teenage sons. This channel is mainly about knitting, but I will also be chatting sometimes about spinning, crochet, and sewing. So if you'd like to join me for a chat, then please grab a project and let's get started. This is episode 14. Hello and welcome. Welcome back if you're returning, and if this is your first time here to the channel, thank you so much for joining us all. What you'll find in the description box for this channel is all my contact information and hopefully information linking you to all the things I talk about today. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Jess's Makes. And my email account is Knit.Purl.Repeat@gmail.com. If I've left anything out that you would like some more information on, please just drop me a comment below or send me a message. Today is really going to be a sort of free-for-all, a real quick quick chat. Well, I always say it's quick, but honestly, I don't have any finished objects. I have some half-finished objects. It's been just over a week since I recorded last time. So today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2025. I think those dates are right. I know it's Wednesday. We're going to be having visitors from, it doesn't matter where they're from. Anyway, visitors coming to see us over the next 2 weeks, kind of coming in and out. So I have no idea when I'm going to have time to record again, let alone knit anything or crochet. So I thought, though, I would pop on here and talk at least about some of the updates of some works in progress. And yeah, so let's get to that. So I will start off with my very final 2024 finished object that was completed in August of 2024, because that brings us up basically to the items I talked about when I started this channel in October of last year. And that item is this one. It is the garden cardigan, a pattern by Anka Strick. And I'm not going to stand up to try to show you because it's just not possible really here. Well, I might give a chance to at least show you where it fits on me, but you won't be able to see it very well. So hopefully later I will have a photo up here of how it sits on me. I'm looking for my notes. If I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. All right, so the garden cardigan, I worked this on US 6 needles, which are 4mm, and I believe that's what the pattern needle recommendation was. I got gauge with the yarn that I used, which is different from the yarn used in the pattern. So I used Valley Yarns Peru, which is a worsted weight alpaca, merino, and nylon blend. So 84% alpaca and then 8% each merino and nylon. And it's in that sort of chain, I don't know if they call it chainette construction, the way that it's looped together. So it makes it very soft and drapey and light. Well, light for being a worsted weight. This is deep stash yarn that I had frogged from a long ago project. And kept trying new projects to find the right pairing, and I just didn't. But this one I got gauge with. So in the pattern, I believe originally Anka held together two strands of a light floofy yarn to get that really light airiness to it. But I got gauge with this yarn, so I went for it. And it has this really nice texture to it, which is created with alternating your decreases and yarn overs. Things I really love about this pattern are that, one, that you work this band, this little ribbed band, at the same time you knit the body of the sweater. So there's no picking up stitches at all in this pattern, with the small exception of the back. and I'll have to take it off to show it to you in just a moment. I'm getting too warm for it anyway. You start in the back and you start working half of the back, and then you come back and pick up underneath so that you have this folded over sort of seam on the back, and then you continue shaping the fronts and the backs until you bring them together to knit the rest of the body. So it is a drop sleeve construction. So you can see it comes down to here in me. So that's right where before your where your bicep begins. And it was really easy pattern to memorize. I think in fact what stopped me after a while on working on the sleeves was that I was just kind of tired of the pattern, I guess, for a while. Thought, oh, I just don't want to do it anymore at that time. Also because I had been working on another pattern that uses exactly the same lace pattern, and that was just too much of the same thing. But I did pick them up eventually and work the sleeves. I'm not sure. The only thing I'm unclear about in the pattern was my understanding of the two options for the sleeves and where to pick up. So I just went with one of the options, made notes so that when I worked the second sleeve, I did it the same way. So I did do one sleeve at a time, and I did follow the decreases. So you decrease in pattern with the option I chose, which was picking up on the lace section instead of stockinette. Yeah, I'm still not sure I understand those options, but anyway, that's the only part of the pattern to me that wasn't clear for my brain, but it's worked out. I did almost run out of yarn at the bottom, so I was attempting to avoid yarn chicken. So I knew I had to make a decision about either having the length on the sleeves I wanted or the length on the body. So I went with stop on the body, make the sleeves to the length I wanted, which were to be long, so that they do actually come down there. I like my sleeves either this long so I can grab it, or up here. So kind of one or the other typically. So I wanted this to be cozy, even though it had all this lace in it. So I went for that, which means, and I'm going to try to stand up, so I'm wearing my jogging pants. So it comes to here. So I know everybody's body's different, but my belly button's here. And so this is the top of my hip bone is right here. So it does come down just below. So you do work the ribbing on the last round. And I did do, I don't know what kind of bind off. I don't have any notes for that. I'm pretty sure I just bound off loosely in pattern because I was not going to do a sewn bind off with this yarn. So it does come to there. Those are the length of the sleeves. So I'm not sure how helpful that is, but let me take it off. Plus I'm getting too warm. And if I sound extra stuffed up today, it's because I am. All kinds of sinusy, colds, whatever going on around here. So there might be some tissues as well along the way. But I wanted to show you the back. So you start across this side and work the left back, if I remember correctly. And then you pick up from that cast on edge underneath here to work the other side. So it creates this nice folded over pattern on the back, which means that not only are you working those bands at the same time as the rest of the garment, but it sits really nicely and it doesn't slide off. So typically, I know, especially if you do a cardigan and you don't have any buttons, right, it might be shifting and sliding around. At least it does for me, especially if it's, well, more so I suppose if it has that sort of crew neck to it. But even with the V-neck, right, that button's here, I find that if I'm moving, it's going to move and I have to constantly adjust it. And I don't have to with this one. It just hangs there, sits nicely, and that's it. So there are no buttonholes, there are no buttons. It's just a band that comes around. So you're meant to wear it open. And there you can see the light coming through, even though it's the wrong side. Really nice. It is quite a hefty sweater because I knit it in that fabric, but it is so soft. So my thinking back to this project, would I make it again? Probably not, just because I don't really want to knit this lacework pattern again. But I would recommend it. And I know there are several other people that are working on it right now. I have a friend working on it um, who lives overseas, so I haven't checked on her progress, who's not using the pattern yarns either. And I believe Leanne, the Nitty Stew, was swatching for one, so we'll see how if that comes along. I would definitely recommend the pattern, and I look forward to making more of her patterns. I really like her style. They're all very functional pieces for your wardrobe, but they all have a little something to them that makes them special. Yeah. So that again is the Garden Cardigan by Anka Strick. Okay, so that's the last roundup for my 2024 projects that I have been reviewing or revisiting. I don't know, whatever it is from last year. All right, so that's it. I'm not wearing anything else because we've gone back and forth between warm and humid and cooler temperatures, and today's a more warm, moderately warm, humid day. Okay, now of course they're cutting the grass across the street. We're just gonna roll with it because I don't know when I'll be back here. Right, so let's start off with the half finished objects, works in progress. And these are the socks I've been making for February for the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad socks, the sock set. So last time I was talking, I believe, I'm sure I did, I was talking about making the Indoorsy socks. So I finished the first sock here. That's probably, I don't, it depends on the light. It's definitely an olive green, but it comes up as shades of brown when you film it sometimes, or very bright yellow. But it's this kind of medium olive green color, and I really love this. I was holding it here with a strand of this lace weight silk mohair from Madeline Tosh. It was custom dyed to match color of Jameson Spindrift for the Cloud Drift cowl pattern and kit from them, a pattern by Gudrun Johnston. I talked about it last time. I talked about it back in October, I'm sure. So you can find those episodes in the playlists below, or just search for Cloud Drift and it should hopefully come up. Anyway, so I have this sock finished, but I'm going to need to lean forward and I'm going to try not to tangle myself here. But when I was working on sock 2, I ran out of the lace weight here. So this is it. That's all that's left of that. Now, I started these knowing very well that I would run out at some point. I did think I would get farther along on it before I ran out. So I was thinking I would use another color of silk mohair that I had in my stash, but none of them worked out. They looked horrible to me. I did not like the combination of this main color yarn with the other colors. They either were lighter, so I didn't really care for the sort of marled colored effect that came out, or I had black alpaca, Surrey alpaca. So those didn't work out. So I've decided to leave it while I wait to get some more mohair. So if you follow me on any of the social media, you would have seen my sort of cries of despair that I lost at Yarn Chicken. But really why I put that out there is I was hoping that somebody out there, out in the world, who had that same kit for the Cloud Drift cowl had some of that leftover mohair, because it only used half the 25 gram skein. At least for my gauge it did. And that maybe I was hoping, I contacted some people that had done it, hope that they would either could sell some to me or swap, trade for something. But I haven't heard anything, but I'm kind of holding out, hoping that maybe somebody can come through for me. Just give me my last, give me the last 4 or 5 grams that I need to finish the sock. I did order just off Etsy some drops. Is it called Kid Silk? But they didn't have any olive green colors that I could find online there. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money just to finish a sock. And so I just bought a couple shades of these browns because this one that I had used wasn't an olive green. It was sort of an olive green, brassy, but it was more warm, like a brassy olive brown shade maybe. So we'll see if either of those work, or at least look better, so it doesn't look like the other options I have at home that are not really options because they're horrible. They're horrible. Those reasons that you shouldn't also get dressed in the dark, I think also apply to adding in a color, thinking, oh yeah, this will be fine, and then in the harsh light of day, it was disgusting. They did not go together. So I'm holding off on those. So I do have sort of 1.5 of these finished. So I thought, well, maybe I could make some shorties with the leftover, because this sock I think only weighs like 35 grams total, with about 8 or 9 grams of that being the mohair. So I don't need very much for the other sock to finish it. So I thought I'll cast on some shorties. Why not? Because that's sane. So I used the, I had originally divided the balls anyway to work them as 2 at a time or 2 concurrently. So I started with the other ball, the one that's not attached to the one that's waiting. And I cast on some socks, colorwork socks, to use the mini. So this is the contrast mini. It's the sort of peachy apricot color. Well, it's right here in the sock, but here's what's left after the sock one. And I didn't want a big motif up here because I didn't want this too high. This is actually taller than I meant it to be. But what I did was I used part of a pattern from Stone Knits, and I'll show you that in a moment. I just used some of the chart pattern to do these roses at the top and this little, little pattern here at the cuff. I just felt like it needed something on the border instead of just throwing this in. I think they could have been okay on their own, just kind of sitting up here, but I did a 2x2 rib for 8 rounds, knit a couple rounds plain, and then started the chart pattern. And then knit a few more rounds, I think about 6 rounds here after the chart finished, and then worked a slip stitch heel flap, did the heel turn and the gusset stitches, worked down the foot, and then decided I better use the contrast color for the toe in order to conserve yarn. So that's probably more like what the colors look like inside. So I did this one. I did 72 stitches for the entire sock. I didn't do any changes, and I used 2.25 millimeter needles. Oh, I did start, so I started with magic loop, but when I got down to here, I decided, especially with color work, that I would change to the 1 pair of small circulars that I have. I think they're actually, they might be 2.5 millimeter, because I felt like they were a little bit bigger, which was fine because it gave me a nice enough loose gauge that I didn't have any tugging or pulling, or it fit over my foot, because you can't try them on when you're on small circulars. I don't really care for small circulars because they do make my hands get tired and sore. They're not my favorite, but I can power through it to get this color work done, and then I don't have any, there's no gaps and things like that. So after I finished the color work, then I went back to magic loop to finish the rest of the sock. And so sock 2 is connected to the same ball that this sock is attached to. So I'm trying not to move them around too much because I get tangled. So, but because I tend to I work from the outside of a ball, because I just get, I think my stitch definition's nicer. I don't have any weird extra twisting going on working from the center. No yarn barf, no collapsing ball of yarn, except now there will be, because I'm knitting this one from the center, hoping there'll be enough left to work the other sock. I know, it's a gamble, and I'm not very good with gambling, so we'll see how that works out, but worked up super fast. So while watching, binge watching some shows, I did the cuff again. I think actually this one feels a bit tighter to me. It's not as loose. It's come out nicer in the colorwork section, but it still fits. That's also actually why I like to do 2 socks at the same time, either 2 at a time if they're toe-up socks. I don't really care to do 2 at a time cuff down for some reason. That bothers me, but I'll do it toe up. But working them on at the same time, right, work going back and forth between them is better because I do know my tension changes, and this is an example. These are much looser. I can feel that they're looser. I can see they're looser, and this is tighter. And that often happens that my second sock is at a tighter gauge than my first one. But whatever, they're socks. It's fine. So I've done the same thing, and I'm now onto the foot. So we'll see how far I get. I did weigh it out, I think. But anyway, we're rolling with it. The only issue is I may have none of that yarn left to make my gnome for this month. So I'm making Noodles, the smallest gnome. So I talked about him last time, but I'll put a picture up here again. It's a pattern from the Gnomes of Grimblewood book by Sarah Shira. So I'm not sure if I'll have enough of that, but I think I will have enough of the contrast color to do either the hat or the body. And then the color from last month, from January, I have a lot left over, even after making the gnome and a pair of socks. So, and I think they still coordinate nicely together. So this could be either the hat or the body. I was thinking maybe body hat, we'll see. And I still have some of my leftover little ball of Shetland wool to do for the nose and the beard. So I think that's an option if I run out of the main color yarn from this month. Let me show you the book for the pattern I used. So I got this from the library. This is the first book, I think, that was put out by Charlotte Stone of Stone Knits. And so I used the part of the chart from her. Oops, oh no, I don't have my page. Sorry about that. Now I have to find it. It's in the flowers section, somewhere. There they are. So I'll show you the original picture. So these are the Raindrops on Roses socks from her book here. So I just chose most of this chart, but I eliminated the very beginning parts that she has here, and then I didn't do obviously any other work. But I actually would like to make these socks as they are. So I'll have to work on those before I return the book. My only issue, especially with these, is that afterthought heels don't fit me. Even if I try to do modifications to accommodate my high arches, my instep, they still don't fit right. They don't feel as good as a heel flap and gusset type sock, or the Fleagle heel actually seems to fit me pretty well when I do the toe-up socks. So that's the only thing there is, if I change that, then maybe I would do stripes or something else. I don't know, we'll see. I could probably work out how to adjust the pattern for a heel flap and gusset and still keep in pattern, but that does require me doing a little planning and thinking. So it depends on where my brain is at the time I want to make these socks, if that's going to happen. So there weren't that many patterns that were in this book that I felt like, ooh, I really want to make those, which is why I wanted to look at it before I decided to purchase it. But I think I would. I think I would adapt some parts of them to work for me, like the cherries, some of the ones with the cherries. I like how she's done some of these where don't continue the pattern, just do stripes, but using the same colors. So I think they're very adaptable. But I just got back from the library today because the other book, the newest book that Charlotte has put out, the Joyful Colorwork Socks, came in. So I put a hold on this book, and I definitely have my eye on a lot of patterns in here. Again, I'll have to figure out what to do with the patterns to be able to do them as a heel flap and gusset instead of an afterthought heel. Now, some of her patterns she doesn't use afterthought heels in every sock pattern. She does use other heel construction. So it's just a matter of not doing the full sock like that in one motif because of breaking it up for the heel. But I don't know, maybe I can make it work for some of them. But I was looking at this while I was in the car at the traffic lights, and there are definitely several ones I would like to make. from here, just looking at the various socks I saw on the sort of lineup of socks. So on the inside, so there's an example. Look at all those fun motifs. Leanne, the Knitty Stew, again, did the carrot socks. Oh my gosh, these carrots. I love them. Let's see if I can find the carrots quickly. The holidays, I mean, shamrock, that's coming up. Maybe that's something I can make with the March sock set, which should be getting sent out, I guess, next week sometime, since it's almost the end of February. Crunching carrots, they're called. And I'm sure you probably have seen these, so I hope if I'm wasting your time, skip ahead. There will be some timestamps below, so you can jump around if something isn't interesting. But I mean, look at these socks. Look at those. I mean, they're just fantastic. I love these socks. So, and that's a heel flap and gusset as well. So we'll see. I'll have to get some solid yarns in my life. See what I have. So I expect there to be some more of these coming up. So this might be a book that I need to add to my own bookshelf, because I'll have to return this to the library in 3 weeks, which is sad. So I better get moving on those. All right. Speaking of that, I'm looking around for my book that I lost. All right. So that's my half finished objects. I mean, I do have 2 finished socks. They're just not a matching pair of socks. So we'll see what happens with that, with the sock situation. All right, the Amiata pullover, which is the crochet sweater I talked about last time. I've made lots of progress on that. Basically, I've been working on socks and this sweater, and I'm sitting on it. Okay. So here's the progress. Oh no, it's slippery. I have made. So I don't remember where I was last time. Showed you. Anyway, I had connected the front and the back up here. So you you chain some stitches. You do a foundation chain across here to connect the 2 halves and then go round and round. So that's what I'm doing here. So you are working in the round, but when you get to the end of the round, you do a joining technique to make it an invisible join, and then you turn the work and you work back around the other direction. So that way you're maintaining the same stitch texture that you had working back and forth originally. So it is worked in the round, but you turn to work on the wrong side and then you work back around on the right side and on, just forever, forever in this 4-row repeat until you get to the length minus the hem. So it does have a curved hem that kind of overlaps. That's a split hem that I'm really interested to work with. However, I do want to knit all the ribbing on here. So I'll have to take a look at the construction to figure out how to do that as a rib stitch. Otherwise, I don't know. If I can't, then I guess I'll crochet the parts I need to and then knit the other sections. I don't know. I'm not a fan of crocheted ribbing. I don't like to do it. This is the first part. I don't enjoy it at all. I don't feel that it has the same functionality that knitted ribbing has in a garment. And if it's supposed to look like knitting, then I might as well knit it because I know how to knit and I can knit easier and faster than I can do crochet ribbing. So, but we'll see because it's a different look and technique to that. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, so I have a little update on the yarn saga. So I only have 3 balls of, I started off with 3 hanks of this colorway before I decided in my insanity again to make this garment, even though I didn't have enough yarn because it is a long sleeved garment and I want the long sleeves. So it's still out of stock on the web from Webs. I can't find it anywhere else in this color either. It's the color Mulberry. So it's the yarn Charlemont. And it is a fingering weight yarn. And I can find lots of other colors, but not this one. This one's out. So I've looked around. I did find one hank on eBay, not the same lot number. And after not hearing from the people on Ravelry that I contacted that had theirs for seller trade, but they haven't got back to me, I went ahead and purchased the one hank off of eBay, knowing that, they're not going to be exact matches in their colors, but maybe it would work. And so it did arrive yesterday. So I have at least one more ball, one more hank. I need another one at least. I need like 4.9 or something. I think that includes the 5% that the designer mentions is kind of overage fudge factor. It is a little bit more of a red purple and less of the bluish purple, less purple and a bit more on the red side. I'll put a picture up here of my original lot number, which is with this one, and the other one. So for the time being, that one's going to get put on hold, but maybe that will be something I use for the ribbing primarily, so that it doesn't show up as much, because they are definitely different. I can see the difference even without the camera. So we'll see what happens, how far I get. I still have, so I'm this much. This is the second ball. So I didn't weigh it out, but I'm probably about halfway through the second one. So I'm pretty confident that I'll get most of the body finished before I run out. I'll be able to get through all the body and probably be able to start the sleeves with the last, with the third skein of the original yarn before it runs out. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, my last work in progress that I've been on this week is actually a new cast on as well since we last spoke. So last time I showed you that the Alpine Bloom hat that I had made as part of the Woolly Thistles Colorwork Accessories Make Along or Knit Along, Crochet Along. I had purchased the 2 balls of Wool Dreamers Cautiva from another shop in order to do the Alpine Bloom hat, because I wanted this kind of black and white or black and natural look to the original, to that pattern. But the Woolly Thistle was out of stock of it at the time, so I found it elsewhere and thought, well, I still want to try this out, so I'll just get it. But actually, after making the Alpine Bloom hat, I realized it's a little too tall for me, especially now that I'm not going to pull it way down because I don't have any hair to stick out the bottom except for just this bit here currently. So I like it. I like the fit of it, but does kind of stick out. And I do find with Caitlin Hunter's hat patterns that they either come out to be too tight, or because they're kind of more conical rather than being rounded, just because the motifs and when the decreases happen, I guess, that they haven't worked out for me. So I made the halibut hat, and I can't think of the other one that has the faces on it. I'll put a picture of it up here. That one, my gauge was just too small, so I gifted that one. I still have the halibut hat. Maybe I gifted it. I'm not sure, but that one's actually too small on me as well. And it gets into that conical shape. I just have a big head. That's what it comes down to. Of course, for my big brain. That's in there, right? Anyway, so my point is, I decided I'm not going to make the Alpine Bloom hat with this yarn. Instead, I'm going to cast on a different hat. And so I cast on the Balahulish beanie. Put a picture up here. It is a pattern from Corinne Tomlinson, who is the owner of the Woolly Thistle. So I got this as a free pattern, I think, when I signed up for the Knit Along. You can also buy it off of Ravelry, or I think it's $1 less if you buy the pattern from their website. And I'll link both of those below here. So that one is meant to be, of course, it's a color work beanie. And I am doing color work, but I'm doing just 2 colors after going through my stash and not being able to make a decision about colors that I wanted in my hat. That's when the light bulb went on. I thought, just use this. Now this is sport weight yarn, so like a really thick fingering. So I knew my gauge could be off, but it's a hat. And I thought if I have to rip it out, it's not a big deal if it's too big on me. But it's not a very tall hat either. So I thought that would work well to really be a beanie that just kind of fits right on top of my head. I mean, that's what hats are, right? They go on your head. So here's my work so far. So I cast on with the black, and I did the ribbing just as they called for. I cast on, I think I used the German twisted cast on like I do for socks, and it's a 1x1 rib, and then started the color work pattern here. So I'm halfway up, this flower comes there. And it took me a little bit to get my tension right. So some of my floats on the back are start off a little, I'll show it to you, start off a little too loose. When I came around, I realized, oh, whoops, that's a little too loose, but you know, it's a hat. You're the only ones who are gonna see it. I'm not gonna show it again. It does have a few places where there's some really long floats, and I did not catch them because again, it's a hat. So let's see if you can see that. I mean, it's also, woolly wool, so untreated wool, so it's going to felt in there eventually anyway. It probably is going to be a bit loose, but I don't need a snug hat. This is really just, you know, just keep the noggin a little bit warm. But I'm really enjoying it, and this is for high contrast, this is kind of the only way I really like high contrast for me is when it's like this. If it were other colors, I like them to be a little closer in tone. So again, that's the Ballahoolish Beanie by Corinne Tomlinson. So that's it. That's all I've been working on a little bit this week, and hopefully I will continue to work on all that. I'm aiming to finish my second pair of socks, the colorwork socks, before the end of the month, and hopefully get noodles done before the end of the month so I can put them into all my knit-alongs for the February month. If not, it's not the end of the world. It is the shortest month, so I'll use that as my excuse as well. And now we have people coming to visit, so that's going to interrupt my crafting time and time to speak with you. But that's it at the moment. Don't forget that the New to You Make Along will end on February 28th. So get onto Instagram or onto the Ravelry page for Cocktail Hour at the Coop. I will link them below, and post your picture, send your picture in of whatever is new to you that's in that photo. So make sure you tell them what it is that's new to you. Remember, it's anything in the fiber arts. It doesn't have to be anything in terms of a new hobby or anything like that. Technique, yarn, whatever. Put it in there and you're in the drawing to win some prizes. So get those in because it ends in just about a week. So that's it for me right now. I don't normally do a sort of life update chat section, probably because my life is pretty boring. I think, you know, I work, I have to deal with teenager things, chores at the house, you know, things that interrupt my fun of knitting. But the weather's back and forth here. People are getting sick. So it's not very fun times. But I'm not going to complain really. I can complain about the weather because it's not the climate for me, but I'm also not getting buried in feet, meters, whatever it is of snow, like some places to the north of me. We're also going to be heading into more active weather season as we head towards spring here. So of course that's going to mean more like thunderstorms, tornadoes, and things like that, especially for the central part of the United States up into Canada. So hopefully that doesn't go badly. But hang on there, those of you in the Northern Hemisphere that are in those cold climates. If you don't like the snow, if that's not really your favorite thing, I hope it warms up for you very soon. For those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, heading out of your summer, hopefully it's cooling down for you if it's been really hot. I've heard it's been very hot in some places, especially in Australia. So your woolly goodness knitting season is approaching now. So I hope you've got lots of plans. wherever you are in the world, that you take some time. You can find at least 10, those 15 minutes to sit down and do some crafting and kind of reboot. Do what makes you happy. So until I see you next time, I wish you all well. Take care.